Tilwani Solomon. Honorable Botho Boss, Chair, and Honorable Bitangaro Sam, Vice. I beg to designate.
Thank you. Next committee.
Committee of Natural Resources, Honorable Chwanuka Kefa, Honorable Kaluya Andrew, Honorable Anguro Frederick, Honorable Babidi Chitio Sara, Honorable Bigirwa Noah Nyendohwa, Honorable Ikojo John Bosco, Honorable Katushabe Ruth, Honorable Kawoya Nifa, Honorable Kisembo Basemera, Honorable Komuhanj Margaret, Honorable Lekeri Samson, Honorable Ngabirano Charles, Honorable Sababuturo, Honorable Okelo Anthony, Honorable Tayewa Thomas, Honorable Wamakunyu Mudimi, and Honorable Iyaguma Wilberforce. Honorable Chwanuka Kefa, Chairperson, and Honorable Kaluya Andrew Kiza, Vice. I beg to designate.
Thank you. Next committee.
Committee on Physical Infrastructure. Honorable Kafero Sectorico, Honorable Kumama Nsamba, Honorable Asaba Paul, Honorable Baba James, Honorable Burundo Alex, Honorable Biandala Abraham, Honorable Guma Gumisidiza, Honorable Kamsime Caroline, Honorable Kamsime Pentagon, Honorable Kasolo Robert, Honorable Kasos Joseph Muyomba, Honorable Lokoru Albert, Honorable Mandela Amos, Honorable Mbabas Jennifer, Honorable Mugisa Muhanga Margaret, Honorable Mutonyi Rose Masaba, Honorable Namuju Sise, Honorable Ninsima Boaz, Honorable Luemulicha Ibanda, Honorable Walswaka James, Honorable Wetongola Rehma, Honorable Kafero Sechitoleko, Chairperson, and Honorable Kumama, Vice Chairperson. I beg to designate Madam.
Thank you. The next committee.
Committee on Presidential Affairs, Honorable Ababiku Jessica, Honorable Nyakun Esther, Honorable Alero Tomaza, Honorable Amongin Jacqueline, Honorable Chakamondo Rukia, Honorable Kaba Jenny Rose, Honorable Kamogo Pamela, Honorable Kangwaje Stephen, Honorable Kasumba Patrick, Honorable Chivaju Naume, Honorable Makumbi Henry, Honorable Mungeni Mili, Honorable Motebi Noah Wanzara, Honorable Najuma Sarah, Honorable Nsubuga Smeo, Honorable Olega Ashraf, Honorable Seguya Lubiai, Honorable Sekabito Joseph, Honorable Kamsime Rosemary, Honorable Tusime Michael, and Honorable Abebiku Jessica, Chairperson, Honorable Anyakun Esther, Vice Chairperson. I beg to designate honorable members.
Thank you. Next
Committee on Public Service and Local Government, Honorable Nzima Godfrey, Honorable Kalunji Elizabeth, Honorable Okelo Sylvia, Honorable Amero Susan, Honorable Awol Betty, Honorable Businje Harriet, Honorable Chelimo Robin, Honorable Gafa Samhumuza, Honorable Kalisa Jovrin, Honorable Muyanja Senyonga Johnson, Honorable Semoli Anthony, Honorable Taka Agnes Wejuli, Honorable Nzima Godfrey, Chairperson, Honorable Karunji Elizabeth, Vice Chairperson. I beg to designate Madam.
Thank you. Next
Science committee. And Technology. Honorable Bwino Fred Chakulaga, Honorable Mutebi David Roni, Honorable Alepa Achira Margaret, Honorable Biyika Lawrence Songa, Honorable Dulu Angel Mark, Honorable Kaunde Helen, Honorable Nankabirwa Anne Maria, Honorable Nyira Zurubaberi Mujumbi, Honorable Sabiti Dennis, Honorable Sematimba Pira. The chairperson is Honorable Bwino Freddy Chakulaga and Honorable Mutebi David Roni, Vice Chairperson. I beg to designate.
Thank you. Next committee.
Committee on Tourism, Trade and Industry, Honorable Kasule Robert Sebunya, Honorable Mungusho Lawrence, Honorable Alupo Faith, Honorable Alieki Judith, Honorable Andrew Moses, Honorable Damzung Godfrey, Honorable Howard Tofas, Honorable Carles Sengo, Honorable Kayinza Justin, Honorable Kulu Joseph, Honorable Lufafa Nelson, Honorable Mwine Mpaka, Honorable Namukura Grace, Honorable Ogama Ali Ismail, Honorable Ogong Felix Sokot, Honorable Timuzigu Kamgisha. The chair is Honorable Robert Kasule Sebunya and the vice is Honorable Mungusho Lawrence. I beg to designate.
Thank you very much, Honorable Government Chief Whip. Now, Honourable members, as you recall yesterday, the opposition, the independents and the UPDF designated their members. And now I want to put the question, the NRM have designated their members today. And now put the question that all those members who have been designated be approved. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. I have it.
Madam Speaker, there was a member who was in cabinet, who ceased to be in cabinet, and I didn't designate him to serve on a standing committee. I have just designated those to serve on the sectoral committee. I beg for your permission that I designate 2 members to sectoral committees.
Proceed.
To standing committees.
Proceed. They will have to.
Thank you very much. I beg to designate Honorable Bakabulindi Charles, workers' representative, to serve on the Committee of Budget. I beg to designate. The second member is Honorable Nambeshe John Baptist, Manjia County, who was on Appointments Committee, requested to move to the Budget Committee, Madam Speaker, and I beg to designate him there.
Okay, Honourable members, I put the question that those 2 members be designated to the standing committees as proposed. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. I have it. Item 6.
Item number 6, statements by members.
By ministers.
Minister of Finance.
Still not here. Let's have the environment. Minister of State for Environment.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. With your permission, allow me to speak without...
You want to lower it?
Okay,
Okay.
Madam. Madam Speaker, I'm here to make a response to the issue raised by Honorable Ida Nantawa, the woman MP, Kayunga District, on the annexation and destruction of Kiula Central Forest Reserve in Kayunga District. Madam Speaker, I refer to the issue raised by the Honourable Member Nantaba last week, 17th June 2020, and you directed me, Right Honourable Speaker, to visit Kayunga District and report to the House. And I will therefore report as follows. First of all, Right Honourable Speaker, I want to thank the Honourable Member for raising this issue that enabled me to make the visit in the said forest. Right Honourable Speaker, the issue we are discussing, part of it is in court, and as I report, I will not indulge myself in too much details. Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, the Kiula Central Forest Reserve covers an area of 2,147 hectares and is situated in Bale County Kayunga district. This is one of the forests which government has had earmarked for reforestation by private sectors. Madam Speaker, allow me to.
You can lower it.
Thank you.
You're having difficulties.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in 2019, the NFA picked information that some certificates of titles have been created on this forest reserve with the intention to net part of whole of the Central Forest Reserve. Indeed, a one Semuga Badru took the tractors to parts of the forest in April 2019 and started clearing the forest for sugarcane growing. NFA responded by deploying the environmental police to stop this activity. NFA further filed a suit in the High Court of Mukono against Semuga, Badru, and two others, defendants challenging their occupation and claim on Kiwula Central Forest Reserve, and seeking orders and declarations as follows. That one, the certificate of title of the land comprised in the freehold register, volume MKO 1578, folio 19 block, Bugerere 14 plot 19 at Kirasa, Galaya, Kayunga district, held by the defendant over the suit land, was preoccupied illegally. Right Honorable Speaker, that two, the first defendant stay and occupation, utilization, and all activities in the Kiwula for Central Forest Reserve, therein suit land, by himself, his agents, successors in the title, or all those claiming under or from him, is illegal and amounts to trespass. Three, Right Honorable Speaker, that an order for cancellation of the said certificate of title held by the defendant on the suit land be granted. An order for that an order of restoration against the first defendant for the suit land forming part of Kiwula Central Forest Reserve, which has been damaged and degraded by his activity, be granted. 5, Right Honorable Speaker, that an order of eviction was issued against the first defendant in his agents, servants, employees, assignees, successors in the title, or any person acting on his behalf from the said land forming part of Kiwula Central Forest Reserve. Madam Speaker, that permanent injunction be issued restraining the first defendant and his agents, servants, employees, assignees, and successors in the title, or any person acting on his behalf from entering, remaining, utilizing, or settling in the said or dealing in any way interfering with the suit land, among others. Right Honorable Speaker, a parallel to the civil suit in the High Court of Uganda held at Mukono, NFA opened a criminal case by that is CRB 366/2019 at Kayunga Police Station, formerly Central CRR 16/2019 Galilaya Police Post, which is still pending investigations and opening the boundaries of Kiwula Central Forest Reserve. Madam Speaker, on the 6th day of November 2019, Semuga Badru, while the case was pending hearing, filed application for interim and temporal injunction against NFA. Right Honorable Speaker, NFA objected to the grant of the order by the registrar on the 29th of November 2019, proceeded to issue an injunction against NFA allowing the defendants to occupy part of the Kiula Central Forest Reserve. On the 5th day of February 2020, the judge lifted the injunction and maintained the status quo of Kiula Central Forest Reserve pending the locust visit on the land. Right Honorable Speaker, the registrar visited the locust in May 2020 and presented a report to the judge indicating that there are no trees on the land to protect, and that Semuga Badru is in occupation. The judge ordered that Semuga continue utilizing the land. Utilizing the land, parties expediently expedite the scientific boundary survey of the land and hearing of the case to finally determine the issue of the land ownership. Right Honorable Speaker, the NFA has also learned that the certificate of title has been transferred to a company known as Modern Agri Infra Limited, which it has added as party to the suit of Semuju Badru. Right Honorable Speaker, the said Modern Agri Infra Limited further acquired 4 other land titles in Kiula Central Forest Reserve as follows. 1A, Freehold Register Volume MKO 790, Folio 22, Block Road, Bugerere 153. Plot 31 at Kirasa, Mbale, Kayunga District. 2, Freehold Register Volume MKO 1316, Volume 1, Block Road, Bugerere 153, Plot 32 at Kirasa, Galilaya, Mbale, Kayunga District. 3, Freehold Register Volume 1324, Volume 12, Bugerere Block 153, Plot 2 at Nakabale, Nakasonkwe, Kayunga District. 4, Freehold Register Volume 1258, Folio 4, Bugerere Block 153, Plot 1 at Nakabale, Kasonkwe, Kayunga District. Right Honorable Speaker, Modern Agri Infra Limited sued NFA for trespass on the above-mentioned land, seeking for temporal injunction, damages, and costs of the suit. The company also obtained a court injunction against NFA, restraining NFA and its agents against interfering with the usage of the above-mentioned land, pending the hearing of the main suit. Right Honorable Speaker, my ministry and NFA is engaging the resident judge Mukono to expedite the scientific boundary opening of the land and the hearing of the case to finally determine the issues of the land ownership. Right Honorable Speaker, I made a visit last Monday, and the following are my findings. When we visited the place with Honorable Nantaba and the Residence District Commissioner and the police commander in Kayunga, the following was observed. Right Honorable Speaker, the Central Forest Reserve is under conversion to agriculture by Modern Agri Infra Limited, and we were able to find over 20 tractors of different kinds were deployed in the forest reserve, doing bush clearing and plowing at the same time. The plowed area is being planted with sugarcane and maize. The speed at which the land is being cleared is worrying, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, because by the time the court resolves on the ownership, the whole forest will all be under sugarcane growing. Right Honorable Speaker, too, I also noted that the neighboring communities are so agitated, and the situation actually is very tense, because as we are moving there, even the residents, the community, were all gathering in different corners, coming towards where we were. The community feels betrayed for the government land to be taken by individuals under dubious circumstances. Right Honorable Speaker, extra findings, I have also a video. If at appropriate time in future, I can also let colleagues watch what is on the ground. Right Honorable Speaker, most of the forests, as I pray, in the central region were gazetted by the government as catchment forests to protect the water bodies from siltation. The current land use change in most parts of the region and the country has led to siltation of water bodies, and one of the causes of the current rising water levels and flooding in the country. Right Honorable Speaker, it is therefore my humble request that, one, the Minister of Lands and Housing, Urban Development should stop issuing titles in gazetted forest reserves, wetlands, riverbanks, lake shores, and the lakes. Two, that the Minister of Lands, Housing, Urban Development should investigate the sources and creation of the 5 titles in Kula Central Forest Reserve as it was issued. 3, that the Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development should be part of the joint scientific boundary opening to determine ownership of this land. Madam Speaker, in the medium term, Parliament, I pray, should appropriate adequate funds, probably to the tune of about 20 billion per year in the 5 years, so that we are able to open and demarcate all boundaries of all protected areas, including the wetlands in this country. This will be for, we have 430 forests that we are intending to demarcate, and the wetlands to be restored. And this will go a long way, Right Honorable Speaker, as a ministry, to be able to protect our environment. Madam Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity. I thank the honorable colleague for raising this pertinent issue and being actually very passionate about protecting this land. And Madam Speaker, as I wind up, it should be noted by colleagues that this is part of the land which government wanted for the private partners to plant actually trees and earn a living. Is part of the effort. We want our people to come out of poverty, but there are individuals who are not only greedy but so aggressive that they want to have it all for themselves. I thank you once more, Right Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. I beg to submit.
Thank you very much, honourable members. I want to thank you, the Minister. Now, I want to thank Honourable Nantaba for raising this issue. However, after listening to the Minister, I'm convinced that under Rule 72(3)(c), This is an active matter in the court. Proceedings are going on. There has even been an injunction. So in the circumstances, we are not able to discuss it. But I want to task the Committee on Budget and the Committee on Natural Resources to follow up on the issue of funding as requested by the Minister, and also to follow up on the prayers of the Minister to ensure that the Minister of Land stops issuing title deeds in gazetted forests. Minister of Land should investigate the source and creation of the 5 titles, and Minister of Land should be part of the joint scientific boundary to determine ownership of the land. But I hope that you'll carry out more supervision, because this is happening because no one is interested. The state is asleep. Yes, Minister, you want to say something more? Not on this one. Rule 72, 3C. It's an active civil matter. Honour members, Kiura Forest. No, honour members, the matter is sub judice. The matter is in court.
Sorry, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the prayers of the Minister is the Minister of Lands to investigate under the circumstances under which the 5 land titles were issued. I think what we need is to give the time frame such that they present that report. Just that, I don't know whether that is sub judice. So you should give them a time frame and report to Parliament the findings under which the circumstances under which the 5 land titles were issued. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
As ABC urgent, can the Minister, the Land Ministry here? They are not here. The Minister of Lands is urged to come and give us an interim report on this on ABC by Thursday next week. How far she will have gone on that issue.
Right Honourable, I thank you for, first of all, approving and allowing my request that I made to this Parliament, requesting for the intervention of Parliament in this matter. Right Honourable, I am aware the matter is in court, but how court has handled this matter, Right Honourable, I think shouldn't be abandoned or neglected. Right Honourable, I thank the Minister, first of all, for coming to Kayonza.
No, Honourable Member, you want us to make a ruling on how the court proceeded? No.
Right Honourable, I am not requesting you to make a ruling because the matter is still in court and we are awaiting judgment. But what is, Right Honourable, bringing all these issues is that the judge assigned the registrar of Mukono High Court to visit locus and ascertain the claims.
Honourable, the Parliament will not direct the judge from here, please.
Right Honourable, can you allow me,
I have read
please?
the ruling of the judge. Oh, Madam, I am aware about what I'm doing. We cannot direct the judge from here, please. We cannot.
Right Honourable, the tractors on the ground. The tractors on the ground, the graders that are putting down a forest reserve. The judge did not order these people to go and reopen more land. No, he did not allow them to degrade the environment. There is that man who is occupying, I don't think it is even more than 10 acres he's occupying. And that's what the ruling allowed him to continue using where he is. But these people went ahead to misuse the court order to open more land. And that's how they deployed more than 20 graders that are on the ground now last week that are putting the entire forest of 5,000 acres. Right Honourable, he's occupying less than 10 acres, but is now taking advantage of that ruling to degrade, to destroy a forest of more than 5,000 acres. Right Honourable, that's where my issue is. Police is not taking action to stop him to go beyond what court is allowing him to use. The Minister came, did not stop this man to want to go beyond what he's allowed to use by court. Everybody is looking on when graders are putting down the rest of the entire area. Right Honourable, the floating islands, We have, you see, madam, we have all these resources to protect along the Nile. This forest is along River Nile, where all these dams are located. And when we just look on, when police cannot implement the court orders, when Right Honorable, what was more really worrying, the tractors are for NADS, National Agricultural Advisory Services. NADS, and a government institution, a government body that is supposed to protect the environment. Right Honorable, the ruling is there, but it's not allowing these people to degrade the environment. Right Honorable, that's where I want you to intervene, because court is not allowing these people to open up more land. It's not allowing them to use what they are using. And Lands has already written, Right Honorable, I need to table this letter to you. They have written indicating from the Department of Surveys and Mapping, they have written indicating that the titles that were issued are in the middle of the forest reserve. They were willing to cancel, but because the matter was in court, they're waiting for the judge to pass judgment. So, Right Honorable, that is already indicated. Even if you call the Minister of Lands, the letters are already here indicating the titles were issued in the Central Forest Reserve. So, when we have all this evidence, Right Honorable, and the ruling does not allow this person, this claimant, to destroy the rest of the forest, and we just look on, when police is looking on, all other, NFA is actually involved in all this saga. The forest that we are losing, NFA has a role to play. And I have even been contacted by some ministers in this cabinet, who are in this parliament, to go and talk to the other guys. Liaise with them, talk to them, Honorable, just talk to them, and the matter will be settled.
Who are those ministers? Name them. I want to know.
One of them is Honorable Bajire.
Who?
Honorable Bajire reached out to me and asked me to go and liaise with GM Sugar. The next one involved is a member of parliament who is a surveyor who actually surveyed and issued these titles, Honorable Kumama. I have evidence here of all the instruction to survey that he misused and went beyond what he was not supposed to survey. I have it and I can lay on table, Right Honorable. So if we are involved in this degrading the environment, Right Honorable, who is going to protect it? Right Honorable, I beg for your intervention, because if you don't, we will give up on forests. Okay. One of the forests in Kayunga called Wamale, before they encroached on Chiula, they first encroached on Wamale Forest. As I speak now, Right Honorable, Wamale Forest is already a sugarcane plantation. I fought my fight and I did win it. Now they have embarked on the second one, and they have already alerted those in the third one that they are also coming, and they will take it. Okay. So if this parliament is saying in Nantala give up, let the forest be taken by these grabbers, we will give up and let the environment take its course, Right Honorable. But I know you have the powers to rein in, because the ruling is not allowing this claimant to destroy the rest of the forest. I beg, Right Honorable, for your intervention, because if you don't, then we shall give up on the environment. Because whenever you intervene, you become a target of these mafias who are... Bugoma Forest has gone, Right Honorable. You know very well. Many forests have been... Mabira is going just at the watch of this country, of government, and even the rest are going.
Honorable Nantaba, I've heard your issue. You have brought new information that actually the encroachers are part of government, that they are National Forest Authority, and that they're using NADS tractors to degrade the forest. Let me give my ruling tomorrow on how we shall move on that segment.
Much obliged, Right Honorable.
Okay. Let's go to item...
Speaker, the minister was here. The minister was here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. On a related matter, I want to thank the minister. And since she's here, I was just wondering whether it is not procedurally right to give us, the people of Amuru, especially the people in Opiru, whom I reported their issue about a month ago, about an eviction that was taking place. I'm just wondering when we're going to have the report from the minister. This is the procedural matter I am raising on, Madam Speaker, and I beg your indulgence. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Kubalia. After Honorable Kubalia, then Nzogu.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I wanted to seek clarification from the Minister. When Honorable Nantaba raised that issue, Right Honorable Speaker, you asked the Minister to see to it that the graders that were grading and clearing the forest stop there and then. In the report of the Minister, Right Honorable Speaker, she said she found the graders there. We wanted to find out whether when she found them there, she also looked on and left them there grading, or she did something in her capacity as a minister. Because the Honorable is crying, they are saying they are clearing the land, even now graders on the land. The Minister visited the land, we entrusted powers in the Minister. Can we know from her whether she also looked on like the Honorable, and she left them to continue?
Now Nzogu, and then Nzogu, and then the Lob. Oh, it's Singiro, former natural resources.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I just wanted to raise two issues. One, on page 2 of the statement which the Minister read, she did state that an order of eviction was issued against the first defendant, his agents, servants, employees, assignees, successors, entitled, or any person acting on his behalf from the suit land forming part of Kirura Central Forest Reserve. Right Honourable Speaker, I wish to correct the impression that the Minister put. There is no eviction order that was given, Madam Speaker, but the statement should have read an eviction order, an order of eviction be issued against the first defendant, his agents, servants, employees, assignees, successors in the title, or any person acting on his behalf from the suit and forming part of Kirura Central Forest Reserve. Because, Madam Speaker, there is no eviction order that was given. So it should have been
reporting on the prayers,
be given, yes.
The prayers which had been sought by the by Somoga.
Yes, Madam Speaker.
This is what he had requested for.
On the prayers, Madam Speaker, it was not supposed to be was, it's supposed to be B. Then two, Right Honourable Speaker, there's the issue of Semliki forest, which I raised the matter, Right Honourable Speaker, and the Committee on Natural Resources was instructed to go and find out why Semliki forest has been massively destructed. And Right Honourable Speaker, the time that you gave them has elapsed, and I thought it better to seek your indulgence, Right Honourable Speaker, because the people of Windibujo are asking why the report has not been presented, because the entire forest, Right Honourable Speaker, has been put down. I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Honourable members, I have an office on this building. If you want us to follow up on something, don't come and surprise me on the floor, then I have to find answers and so on. But the Committee on Natural Resources, you'll have to update us on where you are on the petition from Semliki. I think we'll up final and then we'll go back to our business.
Yes, Madam Speaker, thank you very much. One, sometimes we do things as if we are visitors in Uganda, and yet we are Ugandans. And we have to also take care of the future. Honorable Government Chief Whip has just designated the Vice Chair of Land being the person who went and surveyed the land. That means that he is even empowered more to do the worst. What do we say about this designation of the Vice Chair, who is actually doing the worst? What can we say can the government chief whip actually go and revise that designation of the vice chair going wrong? Thank you.
Chief Whip and then Honorable
Right Honorable Speaker and Right Honorable Loeb, I was not in the know when I was designating members to the committees. I don't have any report regarding the same. I was designating members of parliament to serve on committees. And he has been serving on this committee. You've never stood up here, through you, Right Honorable Speaker, to make a complaint to the government chief whip. Never. I designated members and little change was done. He's been on the committee. I was not notified. I am so innocent, Right Honorable Speaker.
Now, honor members, I think we really have to be, let me finish with the honorable, honor members, please, honorable leader of opposition. The matter has just come now, less than 10 minutes ago. And you want the whip to respond without even doing investigations, without looking at the papers? That's not how we work. That's not how we work. Honorable Yarugaba.
Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you once again for this opportunity. Right Honorable Speaker, I have always been puzzled by the disjointed linkages I have always observed in government institutions, especially when dealing with matters of environment. It's a bit absurd that no sooner has the President been talking about environmental protection than we hear of such a cases like we've just had. Whereas I am aware of the sub judice rule and aware that we are not supposed, of course, to offend it. But I think, Madam Speaker, it would be also good to sound our displeasure, our strong displeasure as representatives of the people, that we are not very happy about the way issues regarding environment are concerned. I think at least that one, we will need to send a message to all arms of government to awaken them that look here, we are going to face serious disaster. I am a victim of those devastations of environment. In Mbarara itself, for instance, Madam Speaker, if nothing is done, any time now, Mbarara city, so-called city, it's a big town, might not have water. Because the only source of water, River Ruizi, is seriously drying up. You all know, those of you who have visited, especially members of the Natural Resources Committee, when we last visited that place, we were virtually getting water from ponds, dirty water, putting it in the tank.
Remember, the matter anyway, you're raising is important.
Yes.
But I think we need a motion where you can bring examples and then we resolve. You say in Kitgum this is what happened, in Mbondo this is what happened, then we make a strong resolution.
Yes, but that one, thank you very much for your guidance, Madam Speaker, and I hope we are going to sit together with my concerned members of this August House, and we sound a very strong warning that enough is enough. We cannot continue doing what the President, at least, is doing his very best, but are we supporting him, honorable colleagues, ministers, institutions? I think we need to sound this one very strongly and clearly and send the message to the greedy crooks who are not prepared to listen to the future. The future demands from us that we must leave something for them as well. I want to thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Minister, are you still on the floor? Yes, what did you do about the graders?
Thank you. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, and thank you, honourable colleagues, for really standing there for the future of this country. Madam Speaker, When you directed me to go and visit the Central Forest Reserve, we indeed found that the case is in court. You did not, Right Honourable Speaker, direct that I stop the activities which were there. By the fact that it was actually under court, Right Honourable Speaker, I had to go through a hurdle. They didn't even actually want Honourable Nantaba to go and reach the place. The Right Honourable Speaker, just for the sake of this country, the mafia, if I may say, in those courts, they have ganged up in that district that almost half of the people are compromised. They didn't want her to go and show me where this is happening. Actually, as I reached there, Right Honourable Speaker, the tractors were literally being hidden. They started running with them. They wanted to divert me to go and visit another place so that the tractors are taken away. Most of them were hidden under the banana plantation and the sugarcane plantation. But I could see the physical planting. Actually, even the sugarcane which they were planting was not yet covered, and the heap was even still there. Now, if that be the case, Madam Speaker, you are more of a lawyer than we are. If it is possible, if you can direct us, then we go and stop those tractors. Because the fact is that the delays which is going on, by the time the court is disposed of, Madam Speaker, the whole plantation will be covered with sugarcane. Two, Right Honourable Speaker, colleagues raised the issue of Amuro and elsewhere. Right Honourable Speaker, you even directed me with other assignment, including Chankwanze. I have gotten already the report ready. Madam Speaker, even the status quo of the environment, if I'm put on the order paper anytime from now, I'm able to present. I beg to submit, Madam Speaker.
Let me think about what to do, because there is a court order, so we need to move carefully, but let's see what to do. When I give the ruling on the other issue tomorrow, I'll also give you a way forward on that one. Let's go to item 7. Honorable Babali.
Item number 7, motion to express gratitude to His Excellency the President of Uganda for the clear and precise exposition of government policy contained in the State of Nation Address on Thursday, 4th June 2020.
Madam Speaker, allow me to lower a bit my mask.
Okay, you can lower it.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Honourable members, I hereby present a motion to express gratitude to His Excellency the President of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, for the clear and precise exposition of government policy contained in the State of the Nation Address to the Parliament of Uganda on Thursday, 4th June 2020. Moved under Rule 55 of Rules of Procedure of Parliament. Whereas Article 101(1) of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995, requires the President to deliver to Parliament an address on the state of the nation. Madam Speaker, and whereas on 4th June 2020, His Excellency the President, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, in compliance with the constitutional requirement, delivered the State of the Nation Address to this Parliament. Madam Speaker, aware that the State of the Nation Address gave a broader projection on areas of strategic significance to Uganda, highlighting the achievements registered in the current financial year and plans for the 2020-2021 financial year. In particular, concentrating on basic sectors of agriculture, industry, services, tourism, ICT, and many others. Madam Speaker, further aware that His Excellency the President guaranteed that the Ugandan economy continued to be vibrant amidst economic challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Madam Speaker, honorable members, His Excellency the President reassured the nation that the government of Uganda will undertake measures to stimulate the economy as a consequence of the negative effects of the COVID-19 pandemic as included. A, deferring the payment of corporation tax or presumptive tax for small and medium enterprises, companies engaged in tourism, manufacturing, horticulture, and flower culture to defer until September 2020. B, deferring payment of pay-as-you-earn tax. C, waiver of interest on tax arrears. D, capitalization of Uganda Development Bank to enable government invest in strategic areas. E, boosting funding to Uganda Industrial Research Institute and providing additional 300 billion to boost agricultural production and productivity of seedlings, fertilizers, irrigation, storage facilities, and value additions. Madam Speaker, honorable members, now whereas be resolved by this Parliament as follows. 1. That Parliament of Uganda expresses its gratitude to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda for his clear and concise exposition of the state of our nation, Uganda. 2. That Parliament commits itself to the promotion of the great ideas, values, qualities cherished by His Excellency the President of Uganda in the State of the Nation Address. I beg to move.
Members, it is seconded. Seconded by several members. Justification?
Justification. Justification for the motion that expresses gratitude to His Excellency the President of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, for the clear and precise exposition of government policy contained in the address of the State of the Nation by His Excellency the President to Parliament on Thursday, 4th June 2020. Honorable Speaker, the 2020 State of the Nation Address by His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces, the Fountain of Honor, and the National Chairperson of the National Resistance Movement political party, is also constitutionally translated to be the state opening of a session of Parliament. In his particular case, this address also translates as the state opening of the 5th and last session of the 10th Parliament. Honorable members, in fulfilling this constitutional obligation and mandate under Article 1011, His Excellency the President highlighted the strategic, tactical, and operational mission of the NRM government in the next 1 year. These range from promoting manufacturing in order to increase employment opportunities to the youth of Uganda, revamping railway and water transport, supporting scientists, offering an economic stimulus to business affected by the COVID-19 lockdown, lowering the cost of lending money to small and medium enterprises and those investing in manufacturing by borrowing from Uganda Development Bank and Uganda Development Corporation in order to spur economic growth, development, and capitalization of the Uganda Development Bank to enable its customers access low-interest loans with focus on agriculture and manufacturing sectors. Madam Speaker, honorable colleagues, As a practical economist, I wish to commend His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni for his wisdom to categorize the Ugandan economy into two parts. One, the real economy, which deals with the human basic needs and is durable and survival and prosperity. This includes food, shelter, medicine, security, industries, infrastructure, ICT, among others. Madam Speaker, His Excellency the President and NRM government promised Ugandans under the 10-point program, point number 5, an integrated and self-sustaining economy. Madam Speaker, honorable members, I think you can agree with me that during the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, this has been achieved. 2, the vulnerable economy, which deals with leisure, pleasure, and is optional. This includes the hotels, nightclubs, saloons, tourism, gyms, and many others. Madam Speaker, honorable members, there's no doubt after COVID-19 pandemic, the vulnerable economy will continue to blossom. Right, Honorable Speaker, honorable members, despite being a developing country, Uganda has been able to withstand the coronavirus, the floods, the landslides, the rising water levels in lakes, the locust, the floating islands, the security of the country, and the crime and feeding millions of our people, and many others. This is because of the great leadership of His Excellency the President and the NRM government. Madam Speaker, honorable members, during this COVID-19 pandemic, His Excellency the President made Uganda shine in Africa and the entire world for his exemplary and visionary leadership in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic in Uganda. His wise guidance and educative speeches, which are always weighted with enthusiasm, will be always remembered. Words like okwe chamula, soft parts, social distance have become household terminologies, even to the younger generation, the abaguzukuru. Madam Speaker, His Excellency the President also highlighted a number of NRM government achievements, which among others include building a strong army and a powerful LOC system, surplus electricity, good road networks of tarmac roads totaling to over 5,000 kilometers. There is no doubt that Uganda is in the right direction of achieving the goals. Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members, His Excellency the President highlighted that due to correct policy on the private sector, despite turbulences, it has also attracted a total of 5,200 factories. They are now producing cement, steel bars, soap, mattresses, iron sheets, sugar, cooking oil, rubber tires, textiles, beverages, and many others. That brings a total of 2.09 billion American dollars. As of now, sanitizers and masks are being produced in Uganda for domestic and external markets. His Excellency, the President, stated that the IT sector is a growing one, employing over 1.2 million persons with 896 companies engaged in information technology, telecommunication, broadcasting, postal, courier, and audiovisual. The country is moving towards digital migration. Honorable members, key institutions like Parliament, international conference, education, online shopping have already embraced the IT. Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, in his address, the President also indicated that Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development has proposed the following measures to provide liquidity to private firms that have been affected by the COVID-19 lockdown. 1. Allow corporations, including small and medium-sized enterprises, to delay payment of corporation tax or presumptive tax due between April and June 2020, and for tourism, manufacturing, horticulture, floriculture to defer until September 2020. 2. Defer payment of pay-as-you-earn tax by those sectors which are most affected until September 2020. 3. Waiver of interest on tax arrears. 4. Support to water and electricity utilities in order to ensure continued supply of these essential services to consumers during the period April to June 2020. This is a clear indication that our President is in touch with the realities of the time. Would you imagine if electricity and water during this lockdown was disconnected? What a big mess that would be. 5. Expedite payment of outstanding VAT refunds. Payment of domestic areas for goods and services supplied to government by private sector. This will help domestic companies who are currently struggling to pay their workers. It will also enable them meet other obligations, thus bringing the money into circulation. 7. For those unable to pay their loans, government through the Bank of Uganda has already put in Gazette the measures to support businesses, including extensions of repayment periods, postponement of loan repayment for a limited period, relaxing the condition for non-performing loans, reducing severe funds commercial banks are required to keep with the Bank of Uganda, and create a special liquidity facility for business that are unable to meet operational costs due to COVID-19 effects. 8. Capitalization of Uganda Corporation, UDC, with 100 billion to enable government invest in strategic areas. 9. Boosting funding to Uganda Industrial Research Institute to continue with innovation research and incubation of business startups. 10. Securing funds for development of Kampala Industrial Business Park at Namanve and for power transmission and substations of Mbale, Kapeka, Bwegere, Kasese, Soloti, Luzira, Jinja, and Imbara industrial parks. 11. Provision of additional 300 billion immediately to boost agriculture production and productivity for seedlings, fertilizers, irrigation, storage facilities, and value addition on various crops, beef and fish production. The above intervention by government and all are all meant to support the private sector-led growth to contribute to the economy without being distracted of having survived when it comes to the basics of life. Madam Speaker, honorable members, on the future, His Excellency the President envisioned that the future indeed looks bright, stating that Uganda is on the right track since import substitution is almost at its fullest, with most of the formerly imported products now being manufactured locally and exported to other countries. As you are well aware, the import bill for Uganda is about 7 billion per year. Right, Honorable Speaker, honorable members, as I conclude, allow me end with a famous quote from Fanoni F, which says thus: each generation must out of relative obscurity discover its mission. fulfill or betrayed. A mission for Uganda has been discovered. As national leaders, the answer lies in our hands to either fulfill or betray it. However, I strongly believe that this Parliament will do what is within its means to ensure the realization of the mission, the dreams and ideals that have been cherished by His Excellency the President in his address to the nation. I beg to move.
Thank you very much, Honorable Babari. May I now invite the Honorable Nawat to second in 5 minutes, followed by Honorable Basemera, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise to second the motion to express gratitude to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta, for his State of the Nation address. Madam Speaker, the President was spot on in his address, as he pointed out measures that the government will undertake to stimulate the economy in order to safeguard livelihoods, jobs, businesses, and industrial recovery amidst COVID-19 pandemic, which led to lockdown in some sectors of the economy for some months, and partial lockdown right now in some border districts. Like Ugandans are aware, Madam Speaker, many non-essential services, big and small alike, were closed, which consequently led to the loss of income for companies, individuals, and families. Madam Speaker, by His Excellency allowing corporations, including small and medium-sized enterprises, to delay payments for some time, the President relieved the Ugandans because most of them were hit by the lockdown, and as they remained at home without work, and so could not afford to pay taxes. This measure, Madam Speaker, has given relief to Ugandans and businesses to offset the effects of COVID-19. Madam Speaker, MPs share the same feeling for Ugandans with the President, as evidenced in the motion moved by Honorable Mpunga last Tuesday, Madam Speaker, where government was urged to provide a waiver on payment of water and electricity for a period of 6 months. This motion was supported by many members, which shows the importance and need to lighten the burden of Ugandans on payment of utilities as well as taxes, because, Madam Speaker, water and electricity are very important in our day-to-day living. Madam Speaker, the President provided a waiver of interest on tax arrears, with many companies struggling to pay taxes to the government, including companies that are contributing towards the fight against COVID-19 by producing face masks and sanitizers. This tax waiver will boost their cash flows and ensure business continuity. Madam Speaker, the other measure that His Excellency put in place is boosting funding to Uganda Industrial Research Institute, URI. URI, Madam Speaker, offers trainings and internship to students, researchers, small and medium enterprises, and incubation of startups, as well as imparting skills in machining to the trainees. Just a few weeks ago, Madam Speaker, there was a loan presented here, and one of the beneficiaries for that loan was URI. And the Minister for Education, State Minister for Education, Honorable Mingo, did invite the members to go and see what is going on in URI, to have a feel really of what URI is doing for Uganda. The success that URI offers, Madam Speaker, enables the firms and individuals to build their production capacity, production quality, marketing and packaging capacity, thereby facilitating their market access. In all this, there are job opportunities created for the Ugandans. Right now, Madam Speaker, URI is designing and producing 3-layer quality face masks, which are much needed during this COVID-19 pandemic. Many youths have been employed. Madam Speaker, just about 2 days ago on NTV, They showed the youths very busy making masks at Yuri. So, Madam Speaker, boosting funding to Yuri is very, very important, and I thank His Excellency for that. The President promised to provide additional 300 billion to boost agricultural production and productivity. Agriculture, Madam Speaker, is the mainstay of Uganda's economy. Many families and communities depend on agriculture for their livelihood. Therefore, government has a duty to ensure that this sector is supported. Thus, the injection of the 300 billion to the sector will enable Ministry of Agriculture to address the issues of quality seeds, seedlings, fertilizers, irrigation, storage facilities, and value addition. It's important to note, Madam Speaker, that right now, the Ministry of Agriculture is supporting the farmers through provision of seeds and seedlings. And irrigation is on in some parts of the country. Therefore, with additional funding, more seeds and seedlings will be provided, and irrigation will extend to some of the parts of Uganda. And here, Madam Speaker, it will help in ensuring food security in the country and increase income for the farmers. So, Madam Speaker, with all this, I would like to thank His Excellency for being focused and addressing the challenges that are facing Uganda right now in this period of COVID-19. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable Nawat. Can I invite Honorable Semera? 4 minutes. Then the law can get ready.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the motion raised by my colleague, Honorable Mbabali, expressing gratitude to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, for the well-presented State of the Nation address. Madam Speaker, His Excellency, the President was very spot on the issue of the economy. He clearly indicated that despite the crises that have hit the country in these recent months, the locusts, the floods, the COVID-19 pandemic, Madam Speaker, he indicated that the economy has continued to grow strong, and the crises have just been reawakening us to work even harder. His Excellency, the President, indicated that despite all these crises that have hit the country, our capacity as a country has improved. For example, in manufacturing, that today we are able to manufacture face masks, we are able to get sanitizers locally, and all these are saving on our hard-earned dollars because we cannot import them. We want to thank him for his wise leadership that has brought us this far. Madam Speaker, His Excellency was very articulative on the issue of the real economy as opposed to the vulnerable economy. He clearly indicated that in the real economy has key sectors, agriculture, manufacturing, and he indicated that our capacity in agriculture has grown strong. He highlighted, Madam Speaker, 14 crops that we are growing and other dairy products like the coffee, the beans, the maize, all these that are employing majority of Ugandans in this country. And because of this and his wise leadership, Madam Speaker, it has happened that majority of Ugandans have remained food secure, despite the lockdown, despite the closed borders. Most of the people in the country have had food security, save for our people who are living in urban areas. We want to thank him and commend him for his wise leadership, and with the intervention he has proposed in the sector of agriculture, it means that, Madam Speaker, our people are going to be more food secure and employment will increase. Madam Speaker, on the area of manufacturing, he has indicated that manufacturing is improving. Like I've said, the issues of import substitution, the things that we were importing that we can produce here locally. And Madam Speaker, this saves on our dollars that we spend on imports. Madam Speaker, on the issue of infrastructure, the President was very clear, and he indicated that as an economy, we have a lot of road network. He highlighted 5,111 kilometers of tarmac that the government has been able to achieve. I want to applaud the President because even Kibale district here is included with our newly tarmac road from Mubende to Kagadi. We want to appreciate. This is aiding agricultural production, access to the markets, and that improves the household incomes of our people. Madam Speaker, when it comes to electricity, the speed at which the country is getting connected to electricity is wonderful and commendable, and it is unprecedented. And if this effort continues and this focus is maintained, in a very short time we are going to have our country lit everywhere. We want to commend the President for his wise leadership. As I conclude, Madam Speaker, the President highlighted on the issue of women and the youth funds. We want to commend him because, Madam Speaker, women and youth are such a valuable human resource that is very important for the country and worth of government support. He has indicated the vulnerable people of the economy, the borders, the saloon men and women who need support and who will get support from these funds. We want to commend him, and we think with these efforts, our youth and the women who are a backbone in the economy, especially in agriculture, is going to be commendable. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I want to precisely say that the President was very genuine, very realistic, he was down to us, and very inspiring while he was presenting the State of the Nation address to this country. And I want to urge colleagues in this House that we all support this motion. We express gratitude to our President for a job well done. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Samira. May I now invite the Leader of Opposition?
Madam Speaker, may I remove this? And I would like to say this is government what? Government face mask. Very small, very uncomfortable, not of quality. It is small. We can never say thank you when it went with 81 billion. 81 billion taxpayers' money. I'm going to lay it on table. Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Right Honorable Speaker, the Leader of Government Business, Honorable Members of Parliament, countrymen and women, I take this singular honor and privilege to address Parliament today in fulfillment of the statutory obligation under Rule 52 of our Rules of Procedure, and make a response to State of Nation's address. This is not a ritual, but an eye-bird view of the state affairs in the country from the point of reflection of the opposition government. Right Honorable Speaker, I will start by mightily thanking and appreciating God who has held us together through these past 4 sessions, kept death at bay despite the worldwide attack of the dreaded COVID-19 pandemic, and worked through our frontline workers to treat the cases that have been registered here to cause great recoveries. I will be returning to the COVID-19 subject in detail later in this address. Thank you, Lord. Madam Speaker, congratulating you, Right Honorable Speaker, on the successful hosting of Commonwealth Parliament Conference. I also would like to congratulate the Most Reverend Dr. Stephen Mugalu Kazimba upon his consecration and enthronement as Archbishop of the Church of the Province of Uganda and Bishop of Kampala Diocese. Congratulate His Grace Dr. Lambert Beinomugisha on the ecclesiastic possession as Archbishop of Mbarara Archdiocese. We salute you and pray for God's mercy and blessings upon you, servants of the Most High. Right Honorable Speaker, with sadness, we remember the deaths of our beloved Justice Ntabgoba, the former principal judge, Honorable Medi Sozi Kagwa, Chairman, Uganda Human Rights Commission, late Dr. Kanyirezi Masembe, former head of Department of Internal Medicine and Makerere University School of Medicine, Professor Edward Dumba, Medical Director of St. Francis Hospital, Zambia, and former Executive Mulago National Referral Hospital. Major General Waswa Kasirye Gwanga, Senior UPDF Officer, and former Chairman LC5 Greta Mubende. Major General Benon Biraro, a former Senior UPDF Officer and a former presidential candidate 2016. Major Akiromo Kanuti, the unsung hero who hoisted Uganda national flag for the first time on 9th October 1962. Late Lumwemba William Apuli, the Undersecretary, Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. Mr. Jimmy Kirunda, a former footballer who captained the national team to the African Cup of Nations finals in 1978, and the many other Ugandans lost in the year reporting, not forgetting those who died outside the country to COVID-19 pandemic, those who died here at the hands of brutal state functionaries, codenamed LDUs, under the guise of enforcing curfew and SOPs for controlling the COVID-19 spread. At a regional level, we mourn with the people of Burundi on the passing on of President Pierre Nkurunziza, and also with the people of Kenya on the death of former President Daniel Arap Moi. Through you, Right Honorable Speaker, shall we stand and observe a moment of silence in their memory and honor. May their soul rest in eternal peace. Right Honorable Speaker, Ugandans must get tired of being treated to rhetoric as they clap along. Year in, year out, the President has functionally presented to the House an address referred to as State of Nation, but in essence, it spells out no state of nation. We have continually pointed this out in our responses to no avail. In this year's address, the President has decided to omit the usual order of segmenting his statement according to sectors, and rather presented an omnibus address that is neither here nor there. The President, at the start of this term of office, promised to make the opposition history by the year 2020, and having seen the opposition grow stronger in state, he chose to even eliminate by not recognizing the leader of opposition in the protocol lineup at the start of his address. We are here stronger and most energized. Right Honorable Speaker, in the address delivered on 4th June 2020, the President started off with enumerating the NRM 10-point program, an agenda that his own government first expanded out of inadequacy and later abandoned altogether for easier options of plunder, aggrandizement, and hereditary rule. Nothing in the 10 points mentioned resonates with the ordinary Uganda anymore, and therefore their relevancy in this particular address remains an illusion. Within a year where Ugandans have spent more than a quarter in confinement and lockdown, and many are out of employment, the last thing to expect was a reminder of the 10-point program. Right Honorable Speaker, the state of Ugandans now is biting hunger, escalating poverty, glaring unemployment, no hope of earning as many are out of work, mismanaged food distribution by government, unfulfilled promises, anxiety and despair. With the President not addressing any of this, what state is he presenting in the State of the Nation address? I will nonetheless painfully delve into the details of the State of Nation and make responses. I will largely point out where this country has gone wrong in terms of priorities and propose workable policy options to stimulate the recovery process. We owe this country's inheritance to the future generation, and our actions or inactions now will determine that future. We have also witnessed with the land issues. Right Honorable Speaker, we deem it important that we segment our response according to sectors for ease of flow and following. At the end of it all, we want to present Ugandans with available options and also point out the lost opportunities in the quest for good governance, growth, and development. Prosperity is not a nursery rhythm for all to chorus in, but a deliberate process that must be undertaken with the interests of Ugandans at the fore. The economy. Right Honorable Speaker, it has been said repeatedly that our economy is growing at an irreversible tangent. The Uganda economy reported strong growth in 2019, estimated at 6.3%, largely driven by the expansion of services. Services growth average to 7.6 in 2019, and industrial growth 6.2%, driven by construction and mining. Agriculture grew at just 3.8%. Indeed, we have seen a rapid spring in some sectors such as housing, commercial agriculture, tourism, small and medium enterprises, agro-processing, light industries, and few other areas. On the outside, these have helped post somewhat impressive economic figures and presented the illusion that we are growing. Right Honorable Speaker, we continue to wonder who owns this economy. and for whose benefit? The growing enterprises are foreign-owned. The tax incentives are given to a select foreign firms. Their tax holidays are endless. Government continues to pay for them their liabilities. There are no protective policies for indigenous entrepreneurs, and one actually remains skeptical as to whether the recently passed National Local Content Act 2019 will benefit Ugandans. One wonders however, why more Ugandans are poor and employment levels are miserably high. The answer lies in the skewed ownership of these sectors, the uncontrolled profit repatriations, and unregulated employment policies, and unexplainable resource accumulation leading to overnight sprouting of some of these investors. Right Honorable Speaker, it is strangely true that this country boasts of increased remittance from labor export when we largely export unskilled labor that we cannot even account for. No figures can be presented accurately as to what comes in from Ugandans working in which sector abroad. Ironically, these same Ugandans are never helped to cope with the life in those foreign countries, and many have been mistreated and others killed without consular or any other help. When COVID-19 hit, the government started asking them to register for the no record or who was where, and as such, their return remains clouded in misery. Right Honorable Speaker, the areas that hold the majority of Ugandans, like agriculture, at 75%, and tourism, which contributed 667,600 jobs, that is 6.7% of total employment, in 2018, continue to receive the least attention in terms of resource allocation. Interestingly, the areas that have been given affirmative action, at least on paper, in terms of development programs such as Northern Uganda, including Karamoja, and Eastern Uganda, still rank highest in poverty levels. Have these resources been truly invested, or the vulnerable state of these areas is being used as a conduit for resource siphoning by state agents and power brokers on behalf of those in charge? Unfortunately, the poverty rate during the past 2 decades, unfortunately, the poverty rate fell during the past 2 decades, but rebounded in 2016-2017, reading 21.4%, meaning that 10 million people were living below the national poverty line. Inequality has changed little. More than 2/3 of the working age population is in agriculture. 4/5 of workers are on account workers or contributing family workers, with 1/5 in paid employment or themselves employers. Youth unemployment is a challenge. Right Honorable Speaker, the unstructured, unregulated economic intervention will not spur inclusive growth for the country. The State House has become one-stop clearing center for literally every intervention, youth skilling programs, yoga, whatever that means, Operation Wealth Creation, SMEs, and many others. Who regulates the recipients and accounts for the proceedings? Who selects the recipients and determines how much they receive? It is no wonder the president in his address called his fund and said his girl, Nachioba, will manage it. Ms. Nachioba reports to who? In this case, Mr. Museveni. Right Honorable Speaker, the government interventions for skills development and job creation should and must be done through the institutional provisions according to the laws of the land. This is the only safety net to curb corruption, misuse, stealing, and nepotism. Government resources must be channeled through known and auditable agencies that will benefit all as opposed to a selected few. Right Honorable Speaker, the recapitalization of Uganda Development Bank, Uganda Development Corporation, and reviving of the cooperative movement is a tired song. Each year, an amount of money is set aside for the purpose of this House has cautiously approved the figures. This year, however, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, to the chagrin of the members and different figures in the budget speech from those passed by the House. We need an audit of the monies passed since this term of government and how much of that has actually been released to the respective agencies. We need to know how much of the released monies have been accessed for use by different entrepreneurs and the resultant effect. Right Honorable Speaker, the country expects to hear from the President a deliberate process of what has been provided, what has been accessed, what interventions it has gone into, the resultant impact and the challenges therein, if any. That is the state of the nation. The reference of still being in the bush fighting neo-colonial agents when one has been firmly in charge of government for 35 years is a pedestrian excuse. The real economy, as the President calls it, of a non-existent railway, food insecurity, a collapsed health system, closed education, and rain-fed agriculture has turned out to be the vulnerable economy when weighed under the impact of COVID-19 for just 2 months. The hard truth is that the economy is grossly affected and crumbling. The President's reference to face mask factories and will inevitably close once the COVID-19 has been contained. And those producing sanitizers can be an example of developments to cushion the economy from collapse. These interventions proposed on tax rescheduling and government subsidies are abstract and ambiguous. Right Honorable Speaker, our call is that the President, through the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, should come to this House and lay concrete, time-tested and specific interventions aimed at keeping the economy alive. It is not appropriate for the president to say that a team from Operation Wealth Creation has looked at the budget and proposed adjustments. Operation Wealth Creation is not Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. They are not Parliament's budget committee, nor are they Parliament to do appropriation. Security. Right Honorable Speaker, security at 9.90% of the total budget allocation for financial year 2020-2021 takes the second highest sector allocation with shillings 4.5 trillion. The President, however, stated in his address that the country has built a strong army and a powerful local council system, despite not being well facilitated financially. We would wish to know how much percentage share at the national budget the government wants to allocate to security for sufficient financing. Right Honorable Speaker, it is no secret that security funding in this country is a classified channel for siphoning resources from the national budget. The reason there is no trickle down for the huge amounts allocated. We applaud a section of the men and women in uniform who have endured the harsh conditions to keep this country safe from external aggression and relatively secure internally. Sections of the police and the LDUs continue to blatantly torture, especially politicians critical of the regime on Zake is still nursing broken limbs. The Chireka torture chamber remains active. The number of torture vans with the police colors and plates have increased both in number and brutality. The Internal Security Organization, ISO, operatives still operate unhampered in glaring disregard of the law. Right Honorable Speaker, declaring political ambition is now a crime under NRM criminal books. Lieutenant General retired Henry Tumukunde is testimony to this. Honorable Robert Chagulanyi was denied opportunity to consult the electorate on his presidential plans as per dictates of the law. Colonel retired Dr. Kiza Besigye cannot hold a meeting or appear on any radio program, especially upcountry, even before the COVID-19 restrictions. These are just examples, but the bottom of it is we can't breathe. For your brutal knee is on our neck. Your brutal knee is on our necks. We can't breathe. Right Honorable Speaker, from the past atrocities, inquiries have been conducted. The Kasese massacres, AIGP Kawesi murder, ASP Kirumira murder, Honorable Ibrahim Abiriga murder, women murders mainly in Wakiso and Kampala, Muslim clerics murders, border cyclist murders, and robbers, and the many security failures of the past. Let us at least half of the report, half of a report on this, and see where to start from. No report at all. Right Honorable Speaker, before this government addresses herself to rising levels of unemployment, non-beneficial subsistence agriculture, loan repayment challenges, collapse of the rural economy, cultural and moral decadence, land disputes, skewed education system, income inequality, and biased access to state resources, among others, curbing insecurity will remain a dream. Right Honorable Speaker, we propose that a deliberate effort with the requisite resources be embarked on to reconstruct the rural economies, such as to allow for meaningful retention of especially the young people in the rural areas. Economic stimuli should be made available where all Ugandans can competitively access them. Vocational education should be made a reality with attendant facilities for learning. The LC system should be left to work independent of regime machination and conscription so they can effectively manage elements of crime in the society. Urban economies.
Order, members, order, please.
Urban economies should be regulated and structured to favor the less privileged. Community policing should be prioritized. Commensurate remuneration should be made for the men and women in uniform, including accommodation and welfare. Work and transport. Right Honorable Speaker, year after year, this House agree with the executive to keep works and transport the best allocated sector among us all. This has been on the promise that improved roads and other transport infrastructure would spring other sectors into development. It is prudent, therefore, that the President should have dignified Ugandans with some details, rather than stating that since 2006, the country has either constructed or repaired a collective total of 5,111 kilometers of road. Yes, we also know about the 4 Bombardier planes purchased to revive the national airline at abnormal prices, but acknowledge it is a step in the right direction, the cost notwithstanding. Right Honorable Speaker, the country, however, would love to know how many kilometers of roads we have been able to register each year to justify number one, calling on the national budget. It is unfortunate that we kept locking money into the sector whose performance stands at less than 50% instead of freeing the money for other equally deserving sectors like health, agriculture, ICT, and education. Right Honorable Speaker, the quality and scope of works in this sector remains a challenge as many newly constructed roads, bridges, and related infrastructure collapse in the first year of use. In other areas, one cannot tell whether the road is under construction or repair, as there are earth-moving equipment on those roads almost permanently. This House should, for example, interest itself on the state of Iganga Tirinyi Mbale Road, Tororo Mbale Soroti Road, Kampala Masaka Road, Kampala Mitiana Mubende Road, and the Kampala City Roads, specifically the Northern Bypass, among others. Right Honorable Speaker, the standard gauge railway is now almost forgotten. Money has been sunk into no avail beyond glamorous artistic impression pictures and reports. The country response to containing the spread of COVID collapsed largely because there was no railway system to substitute the long-distance tracks. This must be checked, and this country gets railway line working. The issues of land compensation have become the milking cow for many technocrats and government officials. It remains one of the biggest call on budget for infrastructure projects and the most messed up in the implementation, albeit deliberately. Right Honorable Speaker, we note that the road accidents remain on the increase in this country. This is largely due to unregulated drivers, unregulated vehicles, narrow roads, poorly constructed slippery roads, and corruption on the side of law enforcers, among others. We propose that government comes to this House with a clear and comprehensive report on which road projects have been undertaken each year at what costs. Government should report on all the progress so far, inclusive of expected completion dates for all infrastructure projects. A comprehensive report on land acquisition and compensation for all projects under the sector should be presented to the House. The budget allocations to the sector should take into consideration the absorption capacity of the sector as determined by the performance levels. Transport regulation must be taken as a priority to ensure that only qualified drivers and roadworthy vehicles are on the roads. The services of driving permit issuance under FACE technology should, at the expiry of their contract, are passed on to the ministry responsible for transport rather than engaging another non-tested private company. FACE technologies should be allowed a transition period to help the ministry effective takeover. Land and agriculture. Right Honorable Speaker, the land question will make or break this country depending on how it is managed. The land tenure system remains unresolved and land grabbing a pet activity for those with power. The country largely depends on rain-fed agriculture, and we have remained subsistence in nature. The President in his address mentioned that agriculture feeds us at almost 100%, an assumption only debunked easily by looking at the levels of importation of basic foods like rice, beans, and maize. Our country has the potential to feed us 100% and export the surplus if we focus resources to where they are needed most. Over 75% of the population lives on agriculture, and here we are allocating the sector 2.91% of the national budget, equivalent to shillings 1.3 trillion. It is only unfortunate that to the President, agriculture means the Kisozi cows fed and maintained on taxpayers' money for his personal gain. It is no surprise that having become super rich himself, he wondered how a multimillionaire and writer, Warren Buffett, is wealthy without cows. Right Honorable Speaker, the President has lately taken to a breakdown of basic agricultural produce and what they can be used for, especially raw materials for factory use. An example is cassava in the production of pharmaceutical grade starch used in making tablets. This is good thinking, but one wonders whether the few pieces produced by certain families for home consumption will meet the demand. There must be deliberate policies aimed at this mass production if it is to make any meaning. It is equally, and that after over 6 terms of office, the president still uses phrase, "we will," as opposed to "we have," when accounting to Ugandans. The president further reminded the country about milk production and processing in this country and how some factory he called a funny little government company would mix imported powder milk with water and stam it made in Uganda. No wonder he sold it off at hefty US dollars 1. Right Honorable Speaker, with the intervention and as mentioned by the President, the milk farm gate price remains incredibly low and the cost of production abnormally high. This has forced many would-be dairy farmers out of the trade because of the costs involved. The increase in milk production is artificial as it arises from a few favored and facilitated families who are in most cases state-connected. Right Honorable Speaker, the process of value addition has remained a challenge. Many companies that venture into coffee processing have hit dead ends. Tea farmers are stranded and frustrated with their Mombasa auction, and many farmers have their tea leaves rotting away from non-collection. Matoke farmers, especially in the greater Bushenyi area, had smiled to the establishment of the Professor Reverend Muranga Presidential Initiative on Banana Industrial Development, PBIT plan. Years down the road, no one has accessed the factory to sell matoke there. And indeed, the president has been forcing government to fund the project amidst protests and calls for an accountability. For him alone knows where the funds go. A thing he chooses to call resistance from agents of colonialism. The fruit factories in Luero and Soroti are no better. Right Honorable Speaker, it remains interesting to note that while the president is chasing people from wetlands in Bukedi and Teso, and rightly so, he has given out the most strategic Luero wetland to Chinese for rice growing and sand mining. So, Right Honorable Speaker, we propose that mechanized agriculture should be implemented starting with regional centers to help farmers to access low-cost machinery for large-scale farming. Ox plows and small tractors should be considered as preferred option for small-scale farmers. Further, the distribution of handholds should be structured and effectively handled for every rural homestead to benefit. Food security must be made priority and deliberate efforts made to the effect. The deployment of extension workers and resumption of extension service should be prioritized. These extension workers should be professional and skilled personnel as opposed to the mockery of soldiers deployed under Operation Wealth Creation. Land tenure should be revisited with view to protect people's land against grabbers. The budget allocation to agriculture should be stepped up to to at least 10% in conformity with the Maputo Declaration. Appropriate irrigation schemes should be developed across the country to stem reliance on rain-fed agriculture. An agricultural bank should be established to help farmers to access friendly credit facilities for improved production. The zoning program should be finalized and implemented. Regulated breeding and drug centers should be established across the country. Food silos should be built at regional levels to mitigate food security, food scarcity, and price instability. Water and environment. Right Honorable Speaker, with a coverage of 15.3% of the total surface area, Uganda's water resource is more than sufficient for her development needs and human survival. Almost all this water resource is fresh water, favorable for human consumption as well as agriculture and industrial use. The level of pollution and encroachment on this abundant water resource makes one wonder as to whether we can still call our water fresh water. All the filtering swamps have been mercilessly cleared, and as such, all filth goes direct to the unfiltered. This applies to industrial waste and fecal matter in equal measures. We have therefore, out of our own unregulated actions, polluted the Itheto freshwater bodies to alarming levels. The President alluded to this, but in his veiled style, only asked the chief administrative officers to ensure no more factories are built in the wetlands and other catchment areas. He gave a green light to those already in to stay, as if there were no dry lands to put the factories on. There is no factory worth more than our environment. Who cleared these factories for construction? Right Honorable Speaker, it is ironically that with this abundance, many parts of this country experience dry spells. Piped water remains inaccessible by many, both in terms of availability and cost. And general access to safe water remains a miracle to a number of areas. This should never be in a country like Uganda. The government was committed to the well-being and healthy living of her people. It should be further noted that the biggest defaulters to the water sector agencies are government departments. This leaves the water utility corporations crippled of resources for effective service delivery. The rising water levels in the recent past have seen many people displaced as a result of unplanned and unregulated developments. For once, the President has applauded nature for reclaiming its territory and punishing those that encroach on its boundaries. The President cannot stand to chase thumb and quoting isolated Bible verses when he has presided over the raping of nature. Right Honorable Speaker, we propose that all developments done without approval of environmental impact assessment and are demolished at the owner's cost. All factories and other developments in gazetted wetlands are demolished at the owner's cost. Government should immediately pay all dues owed to the water agencies. All encroachers in wetlands should be evicted without compensation, except those involved in approved sustainable use activities. Rainwater harvesting techniques should be developed and extended to the countryside for both domestic and agricultural use. Water transport should be should be modernized and regulated for safety. Fishing should be regulated to control immature fishing as well as cross-border insecurities. Social services sector. Right Honorable Speaker, I will address specifically the health and education and sports sectors under the social services. These two sectors directly affect the living of each and every Ugandan, and once they are messed up, the whole livelihood is messed. Health. The arrival of COVID-19 has capitulated the health sector into pole position, not only in Uganda but world over. Many countries have reacted to this pandemic with different magnitude and resource allocation levels. In Uganda, COVID-19 found an already decayed health system. It was therefore easy, fair, and quick to justify additional resources allocation to the sector almost immediately, and Parliament did exactly that. A supplementary budget was passed allocating the Ministry of Health shillings 125 billion, way above what the executive had asked for. Rather than set to standard the sector facilities to comparable levels, the executive took advantage to parcel out chunks of money in the name of fighting COVID, and even the allocation to Ministry of Health is being luxuriously spent on inflated testing kits at an astronomical US $65, more than double the cost in neighboring countries. Payments and selection of quarantine centers remain shrouded in controversies. Right Honorable Speaker, oversight trips by our office and other committees of Parliament have all confirmed the cries from health workers about poor remuneration, challenging welfare provision, and lack of housing facilities. Health facilities remain a shell with no or broken down facilities and equipment. Staffing levels are very low. Doctor-patient ratios staggers around 1 to 15,000 as opposed to the World Health Organization recommended 1 to 10,000. And even under the COVID-19 centers, the frontline workers remain unpaid despite the money having been passed. Right Honorable Speaker, Ugandans and well-wishers have come up to contribute material things and money towards this pandemic COVID-19. It is sad seeing this goodwill and gesture draining down the corruption channel. It is time for the Parliament to play her real oversight role. We as the opposition will hold this government in check and expose all the filth. Right Honorable Speaker, we have noted that because of our poorly built health systems, when the country was taken on the COVID-19 pandemic, all attention in the sector swept and the other health challenges went unattended. Therefore, as we thank God for sparing us a COVID-19 related death to date, we have lost many more Ugandans to unattended to ailments, childbirth complications, failure to access health facilities in times, and also a result of lockdown. It is high time we got the health of Ugandans as a priority. It is in moments like this that we are reminded of the need to equip our own facilities, just in case, for even the privilege cannot fly out as it has happened before. For the health sector, we propose that sufficient budget allocation is made for the health sector to address the challenges and unforeseen outbreaks. The sector should be allocated a minimum of 15% of the national budget as per the dictates of the Abuja Declaration. This allocation should be progressively phased over a maximum of 3 financial years. Up to 80% of the funds voted for COVID-19 responses should be given to the Ministry of Health and related agencies. COVID-19 is neither a security nor presidential issue. The money donated for COVID-19 response should not be used to buy more vehicles as proposed by the President, as those vehicles are already being misused. The available government fleet is sufficient for COVID-19 response. Health workers should have their remuneration increased and paid regularly and on time. The lowest paid health workers should earn not less than shillings 650,000 Uganda shillings, and the lowest paid medical doctor shillings 3,500,000. All health workers should be housed in their place of work. Right Honorable Speaker, the long overdue National Health Insurance Scheme should roll out. The sector should be facilitated to carry out adequate recruitment of health workers. Education and sports. Right Honorable Speaker, we have previously raised a red flag on the education inequalities as a result of our education system. Despite universal primary and secondary education school completion rates have remained as low as 30 to 35%. The factors are many, ranging from poor infrastructure, poor staffing levels, poor pay, teacher absenteeism, sanitation and hygiene challenges, poverty levels, lack of school feeding, lack of distance travel, long distance travels access school facilities, early pregnancy and marriages, early trade practice, among others. Right Honorable Speaker, as a measure to curtail the spread of COVID-19, the country government closed all schools and educational institutions indefinitely. The program for the reopening remains uncertain. In the meantime, government has opted to supply learning materials to all schools-going children across the country. This program has been messed, to say the least, and is as good as not done. Government has gone ahead to arrange for teaching on television and radios, oblivious of their national coverage. This has further alienated the majority less privileged and boosted the privileged few. This inequality and skewed access to education is time bomb. The policy of establishing seed schools where at least each sub-county should have government secondary school need to be strengthened. Our oversight visits have revealed a number of private schools willing to be taken over as government schools, which is a welcome move. Right Honorable Speaker, salary enhancement for university professors and lecturers, as well as the enhanced payment for science teachers, should be evaluated with a view to have it rationalized with the stakeholders. The pending strikes across university, as reported in the media, are testimony to the agitation. In sports, Right Honorable Speaker, allow me congratulate you, the Parliament Commission, members of Parliament, the clerk and the staff of the successful hosting of the East African Community Interparliamentary Games here in Kampala in December 2019. The stellar performance from the different Ugandan teams is greatly commendable. We set an example that many, especially the sports administrators in the country, should follow. In the face of COVID-19, the sports sector is literally shut and nothing much can be done. We should work hard towards containment and elimination of this pandemic, and it is after that that we shall see a resumption of sports activities. In the meantime, government should use the time to prepare adequately. Right Honorable Speaker, to mitigate the likely obstructions from the above, we propose that the cause of high school dropout, as identified, should be addressed. The ministry should, for example, start on a school feeding program to grow nourished children and stem dropout. Hard to reach areas should be considered for staff housing facilities and commensurate allowances. Classroom facilities should be improved. Relevant equipment and facilities for ensuring the teaching of the new school curriculum should be immediately provided. Teachers, regardless of the subject taught, should be paid equally for equal work. Equally for equal work. I'm a scientist, but I prefer that all scientists and arts be paid the same. Teaching material should be adequately distributed during this closure due to COVID-19. The channels of distribution should streamline and spell out with the education departments at the districts taking lead, because they can be held accountable, not RDCs. Private schools that have offered to be taken over as seed schools should be considered first before new schools are built in the same areas to save the meager resources. Stakeholders' consultations should be carried out with the university lecturers and professors on the best way to enhance their payment. School inspections should be strengthened and improved. The proposal for free distribution of sanitary pads by government should be actualized. Vocational education should be prioritized and sufficiently funded. Scholarship systems should be rationalized and put under the higher school students. Financing scheme which is audited, regulated, as opposed to the hidden state house scheme, whose beneficiaries are never known. Constitutionalism, justice, law, and order. Right Honorable Speaker, constitutionalism and rule of law are cornerstones for any country's development, and Uganda is no exception. Whereas the sector-wide approach pioneered by the justice law and order sector, JLOS, has improved justice delivery, there is still a lot of abuse by the respective players. Some effort has been made toward enhancing and solving the case backlog in the courts, increased harmonization of the different JLOS institutions, and improved funding. Parliament has equally passed the administration of the Judiciary Bill 2018 into an act, and this should go a long way into improving the operations of judiciary. We equally congratulate the now former Chief Justice, His Lordship Bart M. Katurabe, for showing all that retirement without pulling strings is possible. We wish him pleasant retirement. Right Honorable Speaker, constitutionalism and rule of law is still served selectively in this country, despite this positive intervention. The opposition remains at the deprived end of receiving the rule of law with the repressive police and prosecution playing the lead prosecutor role. Even obvious things like securing bail in a court comes with the political colors. We therefore call on the respective players in this sector to respect the right of every Ugandan to justice and rule law regardless of their political colors. With immediate effect, discontinue all politically instigated prosecutions. Release all political prisoners. Practice professionalism in all institutions under JLOS. Allow for the constitutional amendment as proposed in the private members' bill sponsored by Honorable Niwangaba Wilfred. Energy and mineral resources. Right Honorable Speaker, it is as strange as it is scary that the President made the State of Nation address to the end without famous word, my oil. One wonders whether it is a way of getting the minds of Ugandans off the oil, or those privy have already set their extraction benefits flowing. The secrecy with which the oil exploration processes have been managed and treated leaves a lot to ponder on. Ink has been put on paper, dollars passed on to different accounts, and personnel strategically placed. But all this out of the eye of the ordinary Ugandan. All we are told is that there are approximately 6.5 billion barrels of oil in this Albertine region. Reports that trucks after trucks have been driving to these oil areas in western Uganda and out towards the border has raised suspicions of secretive export of crude oil despite the President's continued talk of refining the oil from here. With Kenya confirming export of crude oil at a respectable profit, it remains mind-trickling not to believe that this government could be doing the same. Right Honorable Speaker, government spending continues to increase, underpinned by the public infrastructure and capital investment for the nascent oil and gas industry. Expenditures have increased faster than domestic revenues, widening the fiscal deficit in 2019. The deficit is largely financed through external borrowing, supplemented with domestic securities. Debt reached an estimated 43.6% of the GDP in 2019, up from 25% in 2012, raising medium-term concerns. Lending remains within IMF limits, but risks have increased due to higher costs of debt servicing and infrastructure investments. Right Honorable Speaker, besides the oil, Uganda is gifted with huge and numerous mineral deposits, but their exploitation is controversy recreated. From the copper in Kilembe to gold in Buweju and Mubende, to the tin and phosphates in Karamoja, iron ore in Tororo, conflict and mystery has followed almost every mineral exploitation point. Deaths and skirmishes are the order of the day, and it is no wonder that the State Minister of Energy has publicly complained of mafias threatening her life. Right Honorable Speaker, who are the colonial agents that fought against the building of the gold refinery at Entebbe? Who owns it, and how are its operations regulated? Who is parceling out the gold mines across the country? Who is funding all these activities, and who benefits from the proceeds? These are questions likely not to be answered here, but worth thinking through. Right Honorable Speaker, whereas we applaud the effort in increasing power generation in the country, we are cognizant of the astronomical cost of which this power is being generated compared to other generation projects across the world. It does not make economic sense borrowing heavily to develop power generation plants, and ultimately the population cannot afford its use for both domestic and industrial use. Less than 30% of Ugandans have access to electricity to date. We therefore propose that the government should make open for scrutiny all the oil exploration contracts and licenses. 2, the National Local Content Act 2019 should be implemented in the development of the oil industry. 3, a solid regulatory framework for gold and other minerals exploitation should be developed and implemented. Government should invest in alternative energy sources such as solar energy, biogas, geothermal energy, among others. Corruption in the energy and mineral sector should be eliminated. Maybe I should say reduced. Earnings from oil and gas sector should be available for both infrastructure development as well as social service delivery. Mining sites should be properly gazetted and checked for environment management and protection. Tourism. Right Honorable Speaker, Uganda remains a great tourism destination despite the unexploited potential. Before the lockdown, due to COVID-19, Ugandan's tourism numbers had grown close to 1.5 million guests annually. Tourist arrivals grew from 1.42 million in 2017 to 1.505 million in 2018. Foreign exchange earnings grew from US dollar 1.45 billion in 2017 to US dollars 1.6 billion in 2018. GDP contribution in 2018 stand at 8.4 trillion, that is 7.7%. Hotel room occupancy for 2018 stands at 50.9%, with the lodged posting up to 75%, and as stated earlier. Tourism contributed 667,600 jobs, that is 6.7% of total employment. Right Honorable Speaker, it is incumbent upon government to supplement the private sector efforts by opening up roads to the tourism sites, extend tax incentives to sector players, and deter encroachment on national parks, leading to poaching, land grabbing. This will boost the tourism sector and help diversify foreign exchange earnings to improve balance of trade. Tourism is a top foreign exchange earner and should be fully exploited. The paltry allocation of shillings 198 billion, representing 0.44% of the current national budget share, is wrong prioritization. We therefore propose that government takes advantage of lockdown to improve the road and other infrastructure serving tourism in the country. Government draws and implement comprehensive tourism policy that should detail marketing Uganda. Government should interest our mission abroad into marketing Uganda's tourism potential aggressively. Schools and other public concentration areas and events should be used to boost internal tourism through targeted marketing. International trade. Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker, every day of this Parliament sitting has on order paper one or more loan requests. We have passed motions for borrowing money that not even the member of Committee of National Economy can trace all these loans passed. It is not strange that allocation on the national budget for interest repayment is shillings 4 trillion, representing 8.98%, and third priority call. Compared to our national budget of shillings 45.5 trillion, the stock of Uganda total public debt grew from US 12.55 billion US dollars, that is 46.36 trillion, at the end of June 2019 to US dollar 13.33 billion by the end of December 2019, which is equivalent to 48.91 trillion due to increased borrowing by the government. in the recent past. External debt was US dollars 8.59 billion, which translates into 31.5 trillion, while domestic debt was 4.73 billion US dollar, which is about 17.38 trillion. The debt burden continues to grow as a result of trade imbalance, over reliance of raw exports that fetch little prices, while on the other hand, importing finished goods at a very high cost. Our products and exports are also ranked inferior on the international market as a consequence of poor methods of production and processing. The collapse of cooperatives movement made a bad situation worse. Right Honorable Speaker, it is our conviction and proposal that all non-essential borrowing should be halted pending evaluation of our current debt burden and repayment schedule. Revive cooperatives so as to enable producers to jointly produce, process, and market their products. Diversify foreign exchange earning sources for the country. Make value addition in reality through strategic intervention and resource allocation. Make full advantage of regional integration to create access to markets. Politics and governance. So since we are all politicians, let me prepare better. Politics and governance. Right Honorable Speaker, all what I have read rotate around governance question. After 35 years in power, the NRM dictatorship, dictatorship has much to show and has resorted to suppressing political dissent, arrest.